Westbrook. I'm the chair of the ad hoc committee for renaming the street in Kyle. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I have 6 o'clock on the dot. Somebody's on mute.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and do roll call for the members of our committee according to our agenda. And I'll start off with Vice President Fred Guerrero
Present.
and Anthony Davis.
Present.
Thank you. Alicia Bruno.
I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am. David Glicker.
Present.
Thank you. Gilbert Jordan.
Here, ma'am.
Thank you. Karen Shields.
Here.
Thank you. Lionel Montoya.
Here.
Thank you. Nick Landis.
Present.
Thank you. Priscilla Harmon. Did I pronounce that correctly? Last name?
That's Priscilla Harrell.
Priscilla Harrell. Thank you, ma'am.
Here.
Ronald. Pronounce your last name, Ronald? Is he here?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's Gensel, like pencil, and
Thank
I'm here. Yeah.
thank you very much.
That's an easy one.
And Summerman.
I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Wilma, is it Jarvie?
JV, and I'm here.
Javy. Thank you, ma'am. Humberto Bert Agon.
Going, and I am here.
Thank you. And Elizabeth Godfrey Wedding, and I'm pronouncing that last name wrong.
It's Wydig, and I'm here.
What is it?
Wydig.
Wiley. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Looks like we have all of our members present. Yay.
Mrs. Westbrook, did we get Alicia on the roll call?
No, I don't see her name. I'm sorry.
Alicia, yeah.
I was here.
Will you pronounce your last name
Oh.
for me, please?
Sure, it's Bono.
Bono. Oh,
You with Tyler.
I thought she said she was here. Okay, I checked her, so I must have called her. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming another night as we embark upon our task of renaming FM 150. At this time, I'd like for everyone to please review the minutes. They were sent to you by email. If you have any corrections at this time, please let us know.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Okay. Do
I
have a-
second.
All right. We have a motion to accept the minutes as written, and we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, the minutes
I have a
are,
quick question.
yes.
Is there a reason why we can't see y'all at City Hall? It just says City Hall virtually. I can't see any of you.
Thank you for that.
Hold on,
You're
they're
welcome.
working on that. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
We wouldn't have known if you hadn't have told us.
She caught us
She did.
trying to hide.
Yeah.
Or just names.
All right, they're gonna work on that technical aspect, and we're gonna go ahead and continue. All
Okay.
right. As we move on, at this point in time, we have citizen comments. If there are any, and we're limiting 3 minutes to any citizen who would like to comment in regards to our task, which is the renaming of FM 150. Do we have anybody?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, so no one is here and no one is online virtually. We will move on. All right, next thing on the agenda is we are going to look at our meeting schedule. So the vice chair and I sat with the staff and we looked at dates for our future meetings. And we actually came up with a plan, keeping in mind that we looked at calendars for the city, we looked at holiday calendars, we looked at any events that would have some type of obstacles in regards to us going forth with this meeting. And so we, of course, met on October the 20th. We're meeting today. Everybody did get the email that the reason why we're meeting today as opposed to yesterday was because of the little snag that we had with the 72 hours notice. Because it's an open meeting, we have to have the agenda posted. And so we basically didn't quite have enough time. We need another couple of hours. So we moved the meeting to today. I'm so glad everybody was able to make this. Based on what we came up with, again, we were paying attention to the survey that was sent to the 15 committee members in regards to their saying Monday and Wednesdays was the best time. Wednesday actually topped Monday by a little bit. So I actually have a calendar that I would like to put forth for us. And Samantha, can you read those dates, please?
Yes, ma'am. Monday, November 9th. Monday, November 16th. Wednesday, December 2nd. Wednesday, December 16th. Wednesday, January 6th. Wednesday, January 20th. And Wednesday, January 27th. With a goal, and I guess I'm maybe skipping ahead to the next one.
But
So.
they feed into each other.
Okay, with the date for the recommendation to go to city council being Tuesday, February 2nd.
Okay. All right. Just to be on the safe side, read those one more time for everyone.
Monday, November 9th, Monday, November 16th, Wednesday, December 2nd, Wednesday, December 16th, Wednesday, January 6th, Wednesday, January 20th, and Wednesday, January 27th. Again, recommendation going to city council slated for Tuesday, February 2nd.
All right. Thank you so much. So again, these dates, looking at calendars, looking at holidays, looking at staff time. You know, one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was possibly meeting every week. There was some comments from some of the committee members saying that, you know, every week was a bit much, especially with the holiday season coming about. So we look basically at these there's 7 meetings that we would have between now and the end of January. Being January 27th is the last day for us to wrap up, and then our recommendation would go to the first meeting of the city council for that first Tuesday in February. Okay? And so anyway, that's what we came up with, basically, is sitting down, looking at calendars. We appreciate your time, but at the same time, we know that you do have a life. You have family coming in for holidays. You're going out of town for holidays. There were a couple of things that came up that the city was involved in. And so in the fullness of time, these dates set out to be best, keeping on course with the idea that we were looking at the survey of Mondays and Wednesdays. And you can see how we did a couple of Mondays. They interfered with a Wednesday. There was something going on, but we didn't want to not have a meeting, so we just moved the meeting to that Monday time period. But I believe that's only twice, and that's in November because of the hecticness of November. And then from then on, we moved to having our meetings Wednesday at the same time. We had already had a discussion about they would be here. We also looked at calendars for this particular facility, and everything seems to work out well. So all of the gears are all turning in the same direction for us to be able to have these dates in order to get the word out. Now, also notice that we have there's some time in between. That time in between, Fred and I believe it would allow you to be able to continue to have conversations with your neighbors. That's who we represent, to get information from them. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But the idea is that people are listening and they're hearing us and they're watching us if we didn't realize that from the last time, you may have been already bombarded with emails of folks seeing you on Channel 10 already having their comments to give you about what they think about the renaming of Highway 50. So we wanted you to have a little bit of time, as we call it, to network with your neighbors, to get a little bit more information so that we come to the meeting, we would then be able to start narrowing in on this, the naming task that we have before us. At this point in time, are there any comments?
Are these all 6 p.m.
Yes, they will be.
times?
Yes,
Okay.
they will be. Again, you have the option of online, virtually, or actually coming here to our meeting place. They will both be available for you to help accommodate some of this time that you're, taking away from your family to help fulfill this civic duty that we're all doing. Any other questions?
Is it possible for us to come to a resolution prior to February 2nd?
That might be the case. It may be the case. This is what, and again, I think I said at our last meeting, this is a tentative calendar. If we come to some decision before then by all means, we'll look at how we can make adjustments to this. But keeping in mind that also looking at that January calendar for city council is something else that we looked at in regards to doing the presentation for them. And so their calendar is a little bit discombobulated too in order to be able to accommodate the holidays. So this was the best scenario that we came up with. But yeah, if we come up with a better time frame of not time frame, but if we get our work done and everybody feels as though we're satisfied with what we're doing, then it may be possible to end this earlier. Other questions?
I'd like to say, this is David Glickler. In the last meeting, there was conversation about trying to get a time frame that incorporated the end of the year. And given the fact that, one, there's already talk from a lawyer outside about having a problem with the original naming decision, and that's been discussed. And two, the fact that we got a hiccup here with our first meeting because of the open meeting postings, and three, with the holidays, I don't think it's practical to anticipate we could finish it at the end of the year, and therefore I think the calendar is appropriate. I think it's a good opportunity, even if it was earlier and we came up with a name and wanted to present it to the city council earlier. The presentation only leads to an acceptance, and then we're not going to have signs changed and things change, and this raised so many emotions early on. I think it's important that we take our time and build it out the way it is, and if we come to a consensus earlier, great, but I think that this calendar gives us all a great opportunity to plan ahead with the room for a shorter time frame, but given everything that's gone on around this, it's a high focus issue, and I support this calendar.
Thank you. Thank you. Other comments, committee members? Okay.
I move to accept the calendar as proposed.
All right. We have a motion
I
to
second.
accept the calendar. We have a second. Did you get who that was? Okay, you can keep up with that better than I can because I'm hearing and not seeing.
Before we vote, I've got a question.
Yes.
Is this something we're gonna post on the city website?
Yes, absolutely. We can put
Okay.
this on the page for the committee.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
All right, thank you. Other questions before we vote? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call for the question. We have a motion before us to accept the calendar that was submitted by the chair and the vice chair for meeting to complete our task of renaming FM 150. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right. So, that's out of the way. Everybody can put things on their calendar now in regards to talking with your neighbors, talking with someone at HEB, whatever the case may be. Like I said, once, I had several emails from other projects that I've been on that I've already received from, neighbors having, their comments and their suggestions that, we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay. Now, The other thing that we did when we had our meeting to plan this one is we asked staff to give us some updates and some reports. I believe there's some information out there that may be helpful as you are having conversation with your neighbors, as well as information that you may not have known. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the staff has some information that they want to share with us. The other thing is that as we're taking a look at how we're going to gather information from the community, how are you best getting information? Is someone sending you an email? Are you having conversations? Those kinds of things, you're going to want to start collecting that information, and we have a way for you to be able to do that. We have something that will be set up so that you can go in, put your name, what was the comment, or what was the suggestion, did they have any rationale for that particular suggestion, and then it will come to something that we'll all be able to see. So it's just a way of being able to collect information that we'll see. One of the things that I think will happen is we'll see what bubbles up a lot of times, something that's going to be repetitive. That's something that we want to consider, something we've never even thought about. But this is going to be an opportunity for us to kind of collect this information and then be able to have the discussions over those next couple of meetings that we have now put in place for us to have a discussion about. So we will be sending that information to you. Did you already send it out to them?
I have not.
We were looking over.
I haven't, but I will as soon as the meeting is over. I just want to make sure that that was the will of the committee.
Okay. So it will be basically a kind of an archive that the city is putting together that you'll be able to go in, identify yourself. What is something that you heard somebody talking about and they were really adamant about that you would like to add as a consideration for us to be thinking about? It's just going to be more or less a collection of the thoughts and ideas from our neighbors that we'll be able to have some conversation about as we move along the way, okay? And so she will send that out to you by way of email. It's really simple. It's like a survey. You go in, put your name and what it is that you want to say that you heard. For instance, last week, I gave all of you a copy of the letter from one of our citizens who had given a suggestion and a rationale for a specific name. So that's what we're talking about, that we'll be adding and then looking at collectively. Because I'm really interested to see what's going to bubble up multiple times that people are really adamant about in regards to this particular name for Highway 150. Okay, well, I'm sorry, FM 150. Okay, so with that said, we asked staff to give us some information about this idea of the address changing. So there's a couple of things they're going to talk to you about. We're going to talk about the road itself, 150, the future plans of 150, information that we think you need to know. A few a few Facebook notices that I saw. I said, I think maybe more information needs to be given in order to kind of clarify what our task is. We know that our task is coming up with that name to recommend to City Council. But I also believe that some believe that the task is that we're still having a debate on whether we should or shouldn't. That's not the debate. We are. What is it? It's the big question. And so with that in mind, we wanted to give you some information just so you can clear your thinking in regards to, oh, I didn't know that. And that's one of the things, as I was doing some research, I found some information to say, this might be interesting for the committee to be able to hear in regards to listening to information from our neighbors. So with that, I'm going to say, who is going to do the first part for us?
To make sure first, before we get into the presentations, the agenda had the process for, the notifications that would be needed, things changed by businesses if there was a street name change.
Yes.
So are you okay with me starting with that
Absolutely.
first?
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
said that first, but yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So just as a reminder, I'm going to first bring up the West Ranch Market 150 and all of the businesses and residents and properties on that stretch. Just as a reminder, my computer is running a little bit slow. Here we go. See if it goes. Can everyone see that okay? Okay. And this is the list that I was referring to in our last meeting that staff had put together, what we understand are going to be the implications for both residents and businesses whenever there is a street name change. From your recommendation, we did also reach out to the chamber and asked them to review this, and they came back and said that they found this list to be thorough. The one thing that they added is the very last bullet, which is help with the Google, not only the Google listing, but Google Maps, Bing, all of those online mapping services that would need to be updated. So this is the list that we have, and also want to bring to the committee's attention that council did approve $5,346 to be set aside to assist businesses that are impacted if and when there was a rename change or a street name change here. So does anyone have any questions about that or any feedback before I move on?
So I just wanted to add that our committee member Fred actually made the suggestion that we contact the Chamber of Commerce in order to have them look at this list and give us any kind of feedback as they're looking at a business perspective of what all is involved with this name change. So thank you, Samantha, for doing that for us so quickly, because we just had that meeting the other day, so thank you so much. So I want everybody to understand that as we are going forth with this process, it's not a silo. Lots of people are involved. The city council members, of course, are looking and talking with people in their different districts. The Chamber of Commerce has gotten involved. Businesses along that route have had some information. So this is not a new thing that just bubbled up. Of course, that we already know that. Many have been involved in this process and are eagerly waiting for us to continue and finish our work with this task of this renaming. So I want to keep everybody that this is a big perspective as we take a look at what we're trying to do. It's not a silo of just a few folks getting together to make a decision. It's way bigger than that. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
Madam Chair, one question before we proceed. On the $5,300, as is all with the city budgets, I assume that that'll be, those determinations and decisions in terms of who gets what will be made by city staff and not us. And also that would be on a first come, first served basis, because, I mean, I've done city budgets before. 5,300 is spit.
Yes, so this is approved for this fiscal year, so just to clarify that, so as of October 1st.
Okay.
And as far as how this money is set aside, how it is expended is still to be determined.
Good.
And I can't speak for council, but I think that they would be welcome, any input from this committee, since you guys are going to be doing so much work on this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to pass the mic over. I'll change the slide, though, for you, Steve, to talk about the past, present, and the future of this stretch of road.
Okay, thank you. So last time, I think we talked about y'all wanted some little bit of history of the street that we could find, and especially what's going to happen in the future with the new part of 150 that's going to be built. So if you want to go to the next slide, we can talk about some of the history first. As far as I can tell, it was named Rebel Drive at the same time Hayes High Schools opened in 1968. I can't find any maps with the Rebel name before 1968, so that's what I'm basing that on. Obviously, Hayes High has a big history within the city of Kyle. That's where all the residents of Kyle went for years and years until Lehman was built. But it is not actually inside Kyle city limits. That surprised a lot of people, I think, when I tell them that. And it is actually located in Mountain City's ETJ, just outside of their city limits. And it's on what's known as State Road or FM 2770, which has the alias of Jacksie Hayes Trail. So that school does have the name on a street that it's on, just like Lehman does. So I know some people were, not necessarily the community, but in the community, I heard that they would want to wait until the high school had their new mascot. And that may not even get started. That process won't start until January, the school district
right.
has said. So that I think is, and some of you had said that that's not really a consideration for you at this point. Just information for you there. So on the next slide.
Before we move on to the future, this might be a good point to talk about current and the present state of this this roadway and the name. Just to clarify, and I don't mind doing this part if you don't, but just that it was Rebel Road. It changed to Fajita Drive, and then council turned it back, but it couldn't be if they just said get rid of Fajita Drive, it would go back to Rebel Drive. So they voted to remove Rebel Drive and return it to West Ranch to Market 150. So although there are still signs out there that say Rebel Road, that's only as a placeholder until there is a rename change. But officially on the books, it is West Ranch to Market 150, and there is no Rebel Road. And so that is the present state of this road.
Right. They didn't want to remake
Signs again.
and then have them change when this committee is finished. So, yeah, the other question was, what if we just leave it as 150? And I know that was not the intent of council or this committee, and that's fine. And a big reason for that is the county has a project in the works to extend, or I guess a bypass, they're calling it extension, is the official name, to connect 150 on the west side of town to Yarrington Road. It's going to do a bypass completely on the west side of town, going through the Blanco River Ranch area, Six Creeks, and then across South Old Stagecoach Road by Roland Lane, and then connect over to Yarrington. So that route is finalized. They're still doing the design work for the actual construction and the environmental surveys and all that. So they won't start probably until at least this time next year, but they do plan to have that going pretty soon. So that will be called West RM 150. The intention of TxDOT was that the piece from Center Street up Rebel Drive and then the little stretch west of 2770, that would probably be called a 150 business loop or something like that. So again, not an ideal name that's confusing for lots of people. So it's another reason why we want to find an alternative name. I think that's all I had, unless you have questions.
Okay, thank you. Put that map back on, please.
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
On that map that we're showing, it only a section of that road is highlighted. We're not going to rename it all the way to where the extension is going to be?
We cannot, because that is not inside Kyle city limits.
Right, gotcha.
And that was not called Rebel Drive previously.
Yeah.
At that intersection was 150. There's always been 150 to the west.
Thank you.
And can you explain to me, I mean, this is not critical, but as you look at West Ranch Road 150 and you have the Kyle ETJ, how is it that Mountain City's ETJ skips over Kyle's? I've never seen that.
What I understand is that that's the Quail Meadow subdivision that they asked to be included in Mountain Cities ETJ.
Really?
In the like 1980s or something, because they didn't want
Didn't
to be
like
in
Kyle?
Kyle.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. The reason why I asked for the map to be placed and actually for this information to be given to each of you was so as you're listening to your neighbors talking about, well, because I've heard this a lot, well, just leave it 150. Okay, here's why we're not doing that. And I hope I made this clear to everybody, what we're talking about, this stretch of road that we're going to rename and how in the bigger picture, well, we're doing two things. I think one was the idea of Rebel Road was an issue that is among many citizens, not just here in Kyle, but across the United States. So that was one thing that the city council was looking at. And the other thing was to be proactive in regards to looking at this 150 and why we need to come up with a change of it. And as you can see, the little stretch that we're talking about is about the third of the size of what the 150 extension is going to be. And I don't know about you all, but looking right out here at Center Street, a lot of this is going to go away when this comes. Because I've come here trying to come to City Hall and taking an hour sometime to come to this little stretch of land right here. And I kept saying, why? Why have they not fixed this? Okay, well, they got a plan. Okay, they have a plan to fix that. And so we go back to our Center Street and being able to come to City Hall if we need to without having to spend an hour. And let's not even talk about if that train stops on that track, like happened last week during voting, okay?
Oh, they're working on that too.
Yeah, okay, good deal, good deal. So there's things in the fullness of time that we can be taking a look at. But I thought this information would be able to help you answer some of the questions that your neighbors are having. And now we can move forward with our task at hand with coming up with a name for this stretch of road, which is the blue section here, which is what our charge is. And you can see many of us have driven down that road many times before. And the idea is that right now it's FM 150. Is it FM or RM? RM, it's RM, ranch to market. Okay, I'm thinking farm to market, ranch to market. So ranch to market 150 is what we're dealing with right now. And the street signs are simply there because they're waiting to be changed. Right. So with this information at hand, does anybody have any other comments they'd like to make? Bless.
And get my mic working. There
There
it
you
goes.
go.
It's more so probably for question or comment for Steve. It states construction to start in the next 2 years. It looks like it's going to be a project that's going to take at least 2 years to complete, right? So we're probably looking at 4 years before.
Before it's actually drivable, yeah, 4 to 5 years, I would guess.
Roger that, thanks.
All right. Okay, so that's a little bit of information as we're maneuvering through this process that I thought would be very helpful to everyone to have our past, our present, where we are right now, and then our future. I don't know about you guys, been seeing road work done in Kyle and in Texas. That's a little bit of piece away. I'm thinking about Lehman Road where I lived, which was a nightmare when it was shut down for a while. So, but in the long run, Lehman Road is wonderful now. You can move through very easily. So in waiting for it to be done, it was very helpful to us. All right, so that information that I wanted everybody to kind of have to know about. And if you all could send that map to us too also, that we can each have on our phones, on our computer, et cetera, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll send the whole presentation
Okay.
and make sure that gets sent to the committee.
Thank you very much. All right, so at this point in time, unless we have more questions about the information that was sent to us, I want to move on to the agenda because what I'd like to get to now, more questions? Okay, all right, something may come up later.
I had a quick question.
Yes, ma'am. Who's talking? Oh,
Hi,
she
there I
is.
am.
There you go.
Okay. So exactly why I'm a little confused as to why it's just not going back to 150. Why do we have to have an actual name for it?
Because the council wants that road to change, number one. Number two, the extension 150 is going to actually have that name. And so if that road stayed 150, it would have to change because TxDOT ultimately would make us do it because we couldn't have two roads 150. So have you ever, I guess the best way I was thinking about it was if you ever gone to a small town and you're driving down, say, I-7135, and you see a sign that it says 75, and then you see another one that says business 75. And you took business 75 instead of 75, and you figure out how'd you get lost. That's ultimately what would happen, is we would have something like a business 75 or a business 150, which would throw people off. Which, if we're thinking about it, the road that the street sign up there when you turn off Highway 35 onto Center Street, it says 150. That name would have to change to Business 150 or something like that, because the other street that they're going to be building is going to be off of Yarrington. And so we'd have two streets with the same name, and I'm sure TxDOT would not allow that. So I see us being proactive and taking that small amount of street and changing it to a name, and that's why we're not sticking with that street being RM 150.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. So anyway, again, we have more conversations to be had, ladies and gentlemen, and maybe this may come up again, and you may have other questions you want to bring and ask us as a body that we can discuss. But I'm going to go ahead and move us on. So let's just keep that in mind. Something else might pop up in our discussion. If we find out more information, of course, we'll share that. This information about the past, future, and present was because I was looking at some minutes from a zoning meeting, I thought, that actually talked about that road being changed, which is then when I asked Steve to give us more information about it. So I went and did a little digging. And you might do a little digging and something may come up also.
I didn't understand that.
I know you didn't. I don't know why you're on. Sorry. It actually was supposed to have been off. Okay. All right. So the next thing that I'd like to do on our agenda is I would like to get everyone's perspective on the name change. We didn't get to do that last time. We basically talked a little bit about who we were, how long we'd lived here, and why we were on the committee. But I'd like to spend a little time with each of us and get your perspective on the name change. What is it that you envision? What is it you've heard from your neighbors? Now that you have more information at hand, what would you like to tell the rest of us on the committee as we proceed and work on this project? And I'd like you to limit your comments to about 3 minutes, please. And we'll just start we'll start with somebody on the list, and then I think I'd like to do those virtually first and get a perspective, and then we'll do everyone sitting here at the dais, and then just kind of get a feel for what are you thinking in regards to as we move with this process. What everybody's thinking is what I want to hear about as we continue to have our discussions about this task at hand, to ultimately coming up with that one name that we are going to submit to City Council. So I'm going to start with Priscilla. Would you go, Priscilla? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Priscilla Harrell speaking. From what I hear, and I've spoken to some friends and some residents, they just want the name to be simple. Simple, not political, just straightforward. So, of course, history is always going to be history, but everybody thinks different. And I think myself, I'm shooting for it to be very simple and not political.
Okay, I am taking notes. Thank you so much, Priscilla.
You're welcome.
All right, I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go next with Summer. What are your thoughts?
Hi. I agree. It doesn't need to be political. A lot of people are still questioning as to why it needs a name, which is why I asked that a minute ago. And I'm kind of on the fence as to that as well. I have come up with some ideas when we get to that point. Different names that I think speak to our heritage in this area, and I don't think personally they would be political or controversial in any form or fashion. But I'm willing to and eager to put my suggestions forward to the committee when we reach that point.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Ronald? Oh, didn't realize you were here, Ronald. Okay. Go ahead, go ahead.
On my own desk over here. Yeah, I think the name should be simple. That's my millennial viewpoint. You know, I got on the committee because it sounded fun. It sounded fun to rename it. I live off that street in Plum Creek, drive on that street like 4 times a day. I saw on social media when people were voicing their opinions about it being named Fajita Drive and their strong thoughts on that. And it's understandable that they weren't included, that, you know, we weren't included in the decision. I would have been, you know, it's understandable. And I understand that people on this committee would prefer to maintain some kind of semblance to Kyle, and, you know, that's not wrong. It's just hope that we can all meet in the middle somewhere and have a good time doing it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Ronald. All right, Nick, you're next. Unmute yourself for us.
Yep, can do. My main goal, I think, for this is to make sure that it makes sense and it's easier to navigate the city by names of roads. I know Austin has, when I moved to the area, Austin has roads that change names all the time, and it makes it more difficult to navigate in the city. It makes it more difficult for newcomers to figure out where they're at, where they're going, where they've been, all of those things. So I think simplicity is one of the most important things to me, but I also think it's a great step for our city to recognize that the name is no longer appropriate, and it's good to move it. I don't think we necessarily need to make a political statement about it. I'm on the fence either way about that. It would be appropriate to put other names there that might try to show the public and show people in Texas generally that Kyle is proactive in trying to repair the damage from the past, and that we are conscious and aware that those things are happening and real, and that we would like to do something about it. And if it's as easy as renaming a street or taking down a statue, those sort of things, I think those are good things that we should be doing and considering. But I also don't know that we necessarily need to make a statement with our committee this time. That's what I have. Oh, one other thing. We already have trouble with 2 roads named Kyle in the city already, with Kyle Crossing and a Kyle Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
So simpler the better.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Okay. Let's do Alicia.
You'll unmute, Alicia.
You got to unmute yourself. We still see. There you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. First and foremost, I do understand and appreciate that it needs to be renamed. I do agree with that. When I first moved to Kyle, I felt it was controversial to begin with. After doing some research, I mean, there's many local historical figures in the city of Kyle. Their names have already been used for the street names here, from what I can tell. So while using a well-known public figure's name is great, it's been done repeatedly in most major cities. I think that we are Kyle. We are different. We want to stand out and be unique. I do have several ideas. I have talked to residents. I have listened and heard feedback on the whole Fajita Drive fiasco on Nextdoor. And there's been some input there too as well as to what some names should be. So we're trying to listen to people there as well. So yes, I think simple is good, but I also think that we need something that's going to make us a little different. I actually have one street name idea that I could not find in any city in the U.S.
Okay,
as a street name.
okay.
So when we get to that point, I'm excited to tell y'all.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Okay, Bert, you're up.
Hi, guys. I joined this because as a new resident, or at least I've been here for a few years now, but as a new resident, I started seeing how Cal's been growing. I think in 1990, Cal was about 3,000 plus residents. Now it stands at about 53,000, give or take. And the Cal Economic Development, they say it's going to go up to about 60,000 in a couple years. And there's going to be a lot of growth around the FM 150 area. And I think this is an opportunity for us to designate a name that resonates with the city and something that will follow the next generations of people living in Kyle, which is why I'm here. I want to be part of that. I don't think we need to make political statements, but I do feel that we need to be conscious of or conscious of the residents that will be moving into our areas and the diversity that we share in the city of Kyle as we continue to grow. Thank you.
All right, thank you for those remarks. Okay, let's see. Who did I get everybody online? I got Priscilla, Alicia, Bert, and Nick. Okay. All right, David. We know you're here. Go ahead.
Well, as I said last week, I've got a broad range of experience. I've had a lot of interactions with people. I've been in Kyle for 20 years. I served 4 years as a judge. I'm a licensed mediator. When I saw I felt it was probably poorly handled and the reaction, I just wanted to bring a level-headed perspective to the committee to help. I want to make sure everyone's heard. I want to make sure it's handled reasonably. I want to be one of the people that can stand out afterwards and say that the committee, put a lot of time and effort and consideration. It wasn't something willy-nilly. And that's really what I don't have an aim. I'm not going to propose a name. I just want to make sure, we're all heard, everybody's considered. And, I hope to represent the committee afterwards and assuring the citizens, listen, you're not going to please 100% of the people with whatever name, even if we called it Main Street. But I just want to make sure, I want to help guide the process fairly and evenly. And so I can say that afterwards, that this was the best we could do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Karen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, being a victim of Goforth Road, Philomena Drive, I can understand the angst of some of the businesses and the people having to go through all of those changes and everything. And I do want to thank City Council for adding that bullet for Google Maps and all the other search engines, because for a long time, nobody could find us. So I do want to, if you could pass that on to City Council for me, I'd appreciate that. Also, I've had a couple people forward emails to me of suggestions. I sent them to Samantha. So I'm sure those will be shared later on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okie dokie. Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, unfortunately, I didn't make it last weekend, but last meeting, but just a little bit about myself. I'm retired from TxDOT, and I actually had a lot of opportunities to participate, not necessarily, not in the naming of roads, but actually implementing the changing of the names. And I want everybody to really understand some of the lessons learned that we have, that I have personally, is it's extremely important that we fully understand the who or the what we're naming the street on, whether it's a person, a thing, a place. We found that sometimes we choose a name or a person and we don't totally understand that. And I think even just with the name, the current name that was, well, the name that was there, you know, it has certain meaning. And I think that we need to take the time. Like David said, I'm very neutral on what we pick. I just want to make sure that we make good faith effort in selecting one that is pleasant to most people. And remember this too, it's always, you know, as long as it's a state road, TxDOT's going to have a sign every 2 miles or a reference marker there indicating it's 150. And then on top of that, we'll have the name that Kyle decides to do. Unless the city of Kyle decides to take over the street, but I don't think we want to do that because that's expensive.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your perspective as a former TxDOT person. That's very helpful to us. Okay, doke. I'm going to go with Anthony. Tell us your perspective.
So, having lived in Cal since 1997, personally, I just think that what we have in the charter has already been debated. It's already been gone through council. Personally, I'm okay with the name so long as it fits with what's in there on Chapter 7, Section 38-333. It has a criteria of what anyone who has any thoughts, that's what they want to be named after, whether or not it's something about heritage. We heard about history, we heard about something that's simple, something that can be found on Google Maps. All that can be found in the charter, as well as some other criteria. Personally, I've already gone and taken the liberty of going to the city library. I found a few books that's about history, something about the Prairie City from as far back as 1880 to 1980 by Ann Miller Strum. There's also the Hayes County Historical Commission. They released a book 4 years ago in 2016. A lot of good information in there. I found some names. I found different sort of stores and businesses and people that have started their own livelihoods here. It doesn't necessarily have to be about someone who's big. I mean, even I've been here for 23 years. I understand I'm more on the older end of this, but everybody here, no matter how long you've been here, you are a citizen. You deserve to have your voice heard. You deserve to have an idea, something to bring forth. So regardless of how old it is, how long someone's been here, whether or not the name is about someone who's been here for eons and their family's been here since 1880, or if they were here maybe a month because their studio was here. But for me personally, as long as it fits the criteria, as long as it fits what's in the charter, anything's a game. And I'm willing to hear it, whatever it is.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Where am I now? Let's go with Wilma. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Okay. I'm a very new resident of Kyle. I've only lived here for 16 months. And I became aware of the change through the newsletter that I get, the Kyle newsletter that's emailed to me. And then once it was on there, of course, it exploded on Nextdoor. And so I decided that I really needed to become involved in the community. I retired 5 years ago after 38 years working for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the last 16 as director of the Cincinnati area. So I said that I could play a part in making sure that whatever we did, it reflected the diversity of the area. And I'm not tied to any name. I think the name should reflect Kyle, but also reflect the diversity in the community.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Elizabeth.
I have a couple of thoughts. I'm in line with the majority of the folks that have, brought their ideas forward. When I first joined this committee, I thought, well, we need to do something about the Kyle legacies, here, we need to do our history. The more that we talk about it and look at it, I really also want to put on the table that in 2018, the city of Kyle branded itself the pie capital of Texas. Mm-hmm. Just an idea that looking forward to our future, what is this name going to represent for us? We have a whole committee here, that's going to change the way that our road works, and people's thoughts, ideas, and I would really like to see us, with our, the navigation is important. The research that will go into this is important. We owe our city, good quality work. And I just want to make sure that if we encompass the branding somehow, that's just an idea that we need to put on the table.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Lano?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's Lino.
Lino, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Lino.
I think I've been hearing a lot of agreement with everybody's talking, and with everybody saying that it doesn't need to be anything political. It just needs to be kept simple, and I think that's great. I was actually gonna say something about but before Elizabeth beat me to it about the pie capital, I think that's something that we could embrace. Like, I don't know, maybe naming it after a pie, just for kicks. But other than that, I don't really have any other name off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Did I get everybody on the dais? Yes. Yes, okay. Fred, that leaves you.
Sure, okay. My thing on. Like many of you, I bring a diverse background to this group, and I served on the San Marcos City Council for 15 years. And the forming of a special committee was never an issue because planning and zoning did all the namings of our streets. That's number one. So for me, it's just something city does on a very regular basis. And I have a question to the two of you. I live in Plum Creek. Who named the streets in Plum Creek? My assumption that it's the owner of the property that sold the lots, or the builders.
The builders,
Okay,
probably.
so
That's
there
what
are
happened in
hundreds of streets in Plum Creek, and no one asked me. I live on Eccles. Nobody asked me about Eccles. I just bought the house, and there I am. Same thing with Fergus. We have a house on Fergus. It was Fergus when we moved in. So what we're planning to do is important, but it's not the end of the world. So there are several of you that use words simple, heritage, political, and diversity. There are several of us up here. Each one of us has a different interpretation of what those words mean. Heritage to me means a lot of things. Simple, well, what's your definition of simple? So I just submit to you that we ought to consider this seriously, but it's just the naming of the street. And it's not in my scope of life. I mean, it's not a big deal to deal with the naming of the street. It's something the council wants us to do. They opted not to do it. They appointed a committee. Now we've given that responsibility. And one final point, this is not about me. My perspective and my opinions don't matter, but those of my neighbors do. And that's going to be my approach. And somewhere in all of the morass that we're all going to be involved in is going to be, someone will come up with a name. But I just think we ought to be very careful when you start talking about making it political. Because political means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So keep that in mind, and that's going to be true of every other name that comes up. So I look forward to working with everyone here. I don't have a vested interest. Whatever the committee decides to do is, I'm going to support 110%. And I don't have an uncle that I want it named after, so it's not a big deal. But I think it's important that you name it after someone that might have played a role in Kyle. But I also think someone talked about diversity. We ought to be sensitive to the fact that Kyle is a very diverse city. Plum Creek is a very diverse subdivision. So as long as we keep all those things in mind, and I think we're going to be very successful. And I think we'll all be surprised at how I think we're going to agree pretty much toward the end of this whole process. So I look forward to working with each one of you.
Thank you. All right, that leaves me. I would have to say that. I didn't understand that. I don't know. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to turn it off. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll just do it underneath the table. I think from my perspective is I joined this committee because I wanted to do my civic duty. And I thought that I would be able to help along the process with just leadership skills that I've used over the years. I am not connected to any one name, and I look forward to seeing what names come up among us that we ultimately make a decision on for the most part. I like the idea that we are representing the city of Kyle, and we are a diverse group of folks, and we will come to some type of agreement as to what we want to go forth with to city council. I think all of our voices are equal and important, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's perspective. I would like, though, that when a name is brought forth to us, that we have some rationale or some explanation behind it. And if we can do research and define it out, the complexities of the names, we will certainly do that. I mentioned earlier that I am actually on the Hayes County Historical Commission and happened to bought a handy dandy book today called Kyle, the Prairie City from 1818 to 1980 in order to be able to look at it. And all of the books that Anthony mentioned I actually have on my shelf. So just keeping that in mind, let's see where we go from here. Again, I didn't come in with an agenda of having this name go forth. I'm open to let's see what comes up as we have our discussion. And I appreciate everybody's opinion. And I think also that Fred said something about those words, simple, heritage, political, diversity. And he's right, they do mean different things, but they also have worth to them per person. So someone thinks diversity is higher than heritage or think that simple is higher than political. I can say this, we are in a political arena whether we thought we were or not. Amen. So that's just the way of the world. And because we are being filmed and citizens are able to listen to us and catch us in the grocery store, we're in this political arena right now to help with something that is a task of naming a street. And so from my impression, when citizens, came out in droves and sent emails and all these other kind of things about this particular point, there was something to that. Because city council does lots of things. We have a few people who will come and say this and say that, but this was like an uproar. And so because of that, we are basically representing our neighbors to help take that uproar and to come with something very positive out of it. And so I look forward to seeing what we come up with overall. Did I get everybody? I didn't want to leave out anybody. Okay, good deal. I just wanted us to have a little time to listen to each other in the aspect of this meeting. And, we political we're ruled by the Opens Meeting Act. That in itself is political. Keep that in mind. We're being viewed by citizens on Channel 10 right now who are sitting down taking notes because they're going to be looking for us in the grocery store. That's fine. And we're open to listening, and then we're going to come back and then make some decisions based on what we've heard and what we think about what people have told us. I just wanted to make sure that we had good information. I think we do now. We have more information we walked in today with than we did last week. And so folks can come up and say a lot of things to us, but again, our task is what's the name? Number two, there's a purpose involved here. A lot of people are saying, what? We're getting a new road? That's new information. And so all of those things collectively will help us come to our next meeting, which I anticipate we're going to start this discussion with names. And so our next meeting, I'm going to charge each member on the committee to go ahead and enter some of those names you have on the portal that's going to be set up so that we can all read them, and we're going to start going through a discussion. What I'd like to do is, as names come before us, again, it's very helpful to have a rationale for the name and have some explanation of the name so we can, research it and be able to say, well, this is not getting us far from the name where we already are, or this is connected how, those kinds of things like that. And so I'm saying to our citizens, you want a name, you want to submit us a name, give us a rationale, a description, an explanation of that particular name so we can have a discussion about it. Because as of our next meeting, which I believe is November the 9th, we will come in with the idea of looking at the names that we've posted. You may have a few that you may bring in that you didn't get a chance to post because it was too close to meeting time. And we'll just start going down the road, our roster, and you're going to tell us names and we're going to have a discussion about them. And then either the name will go forward to, I'm thinking a couple of stages. It went through stage 1, went through stage 2, stage 3, for some reason it was taken out up to a point where we've got it narrowed down to 2 to 3 names, and then we're going to then have a discussion on which one we want to set forth to the city council. Again, if we get done with that before our timeline, that's wonderful. But we have an end in mind, which is our presentation on February 3rd to City Council with that one name. I'm sorry, February 2nd. Thank you. February 2nd. So our task, have your discussions with your neighbors, enter into the portal information that you already have. If somebody saw you at the gas station and said, Misty Brown, okay, why? Why Misty Brown? What's the purpose behind that? So that's what we're looking for when we come back and meet with each other. And we'll start having this discussion and start narrowing this list down, because before you know it, January the 27th will be here. Trust me. So any questions, committee members?
Move to adjourn.
All right. I was just looking at my watch. I heard a second. Who was it?
The second.
It was Bert. Okay. All right. So we move to adjourn at looks like 7:07. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you on November the 9th with those ideas as we proceed in our discussion.